This is not a story about a villain. Sofia is not a villain. She is someone who loved James, genuinely, completely, for a long time. Someone who tried. Someone who, for reasons she did not fully understand until it was too late, made a choice that changed everything. This episode begins before the betrayal, because betrayal almost never begins where people think it does. Welcome to James and Sofia. Today we talk about infidelity. Not to judge it, not to excuse it, but to understand it. Because understanding is the only thing that has ever actually helped. It started, as these things often do, with a feeling Sofia could not quite name. Not unhappiness exactly. She and James were not unhappy. They had a life together, a good one by most definitions. The apartment, the cat, the Thursday evenings on the couch. The inside jokes that had accumulated over 6 years like sediment at the bottom of something deep. But somewhere in the third or fourth year, something had shifted. So slowly that neither of them noticed, so gradually. By the time Sofia noticed, she could not remember when it had started. She could not point to a single moment and say, "There, that is where it changed." What she noticed was this: she had stopped telling James things. Not important things, she still told him those, but the small things. The funny moment at work, the book she was reading that was making her think, the dream she had on Wednesday night that stayed with her all day Thursday. Those things had stopped moving from her inner world to his. She did not decide to stop, it just happened. The way rivers change course over centuries, not in a single dramatic flood, but grain by grain, so quietly that you only notice when you look back and realize the water is somewhere different. James had not noticed, or if he had noticed, he had not said anything. That was the thing about James. He was in many ways the kindest person Sofia had ever known. But kindness, she was learning, is not the same as presence. And presence was what she had slowly, quietly stopped feeling. His name was Marco. He was a colleague. He was not particularly special. Not more handsome than James, not more intelligent, not more interesting. A long time, she said, a very long time. And still curious about what you think, he asked Sofia questions. Not out of duty, out of genuine curiosity. He listened to the answers. In the way that makes you feel while you are speaking, that what you are saying actually matters. Sofia told herself it was just friendship. For a long time, it was just friendship. And then, one evening in November, standing outside in the cold, it became something else. She did not plan it. That is the truth. And it is also almost completely irrelevant. Because the planning had happened long before November, in a different way. In the slow withdrawal from James, in the growing intimacy with Marco, in the 100 small choices she had made, each one individually innocent. That had built a road leading exactly here. This is the sliding door phenomenon. Not one big decision, but 1,000 small ones, each so minor it seems hardly worth examining. Together, a direction, she told James in January. Not because she had to. Marco had already ended it, briefly, uncomfortably, in the way that things end when both people know they should never have started. Sofia could have said nothing. James would never have known. She told him because the not telling felt, to her, like the greater betrayal. James sat completely still for a very long time. He did not shout. Sofia had expected shouting, had almost needed it, the way you need rain after a long, dry season. But James went still and quiet in the way he always went quiet, heavier this time. Like something had changed its fundamental nature inside him and was settling into a new shape. Finally he said, "How long has it been since you felt close to me?" Not, "How could you?" Not, "Who is he?" Not the questions Sofia had rehearsed. During the sleepless weeks between November and January, how long has it been? Sofia realized she did not know the answer, not because it was a complicated question, but because the answer was so simple and so devastating that she had spent months not letting herself see it. A long time, she said, a very long time. Here's what the research tells us about infidelity. Dr. Esther Perel, one of the most important voices on this subject, studying why people betray partners. Her finding, uncomfortable, necessary, is this: people often cheat not because they want to leave, but because they want to feel alive inside their relationship again, or more precisely, because they have stopped feeling alive inside themselves, and the affair becomes a way of remembering who they were before they became only half of something. This is not an excuse. Let me be clear about that. The pain that betrayal causes is real, and it is enormous. And it belongs entirely to the person who was betrayed. James's stillness in that January moment was not a small thing. It was a fracture. And fractures do not simply disappear because they are understood, but understanding. Why betrayal happens is not the same as forgiving it. It is something more fundamental. It is the difference between treating a wound and treating the infection underneath it. Perel also found something that is, in its own way, hopeful. The couples who survive infidelity, and some do, completely, with a relationship that is stronger after than it was before, are almost never the ones who manage to simply forgive and forget. Forgetting is not possible. What is possible for some couples is the construction of a new relationship, not the repair of the old one. Something genuinely new, built on the ruins of what came before, with the knowledge of what those ruins mean. That is a different project, and it requires both people to be willing to look honestly at what the relationship was before the betrayal, not just at the betrayal itself. James and Sofia are still in that apartment. It has been 3 months since January. The cat still moves between them. The Thursday evenings on the couch have not returned. Not yet. But they have started talking, really talking, the way they had not in years, about the distance, about the silence that had grown between them while they were both looking elsewhere, about the small things that had stopped being shared and had therefore stopped being real. It is not a love story right now. It is something harder and more honest than that. Two people sitting with a truth that is too large for either of them to hold alone, deciding, one conversation at a time, whether they are willing to hold it together. James asked Sofia, one evening in March, if you could go back, not to before Marco, but to before the drift, what would you have done differently? Sofia thought about it for a long time. I would have told you, she said, the small things. All the small things I stopped telling you. I think that's where it began, not in November, long before November. In all the moments I had something to say and decided it didn't matter. James was quiet. I think I would have asked, he said. I noticed you going quiet. I told myself you were tired or busy. I should have asked. This is what repair looks like. Not grand gestures, not declarations. Two people sitting in the wreckage of something they both built and both allowed to crumble, asking the questions they should have asked years earlier. It is not beautiful. It is not romantic, but it is real. And sometimes real is the beginning of something that lasts. Betrayal is one of the most painful experiences a relationship can survive, and the word survive is chosen carefully. Because some relationships do not, and should not, inside relationships already too damaged, or with a cruelty. There is no obligation to stay. There is no psychological formula that makes the right answer obvious. Only two people, their own histories, and the honest assessment of whether what they have is worth rebuilding. What psychology can offer is not the answer, it is the questions. Was this relationship one where both felt seen? Where the small things were shared? Where the distance was noticed and named instead of allowed to grow in silence? If the answer is no, then the betrayal is a symptom, not the disease, and treating only the symptom will never be enough. If the answer is yes, if what existed before was real, then the question becomes, can we build something true enough to hold us both? That is the question James and Sofia are sitting with the cat between them and 3 months of hardest conversations. We will follow them, whatever they decide. Next week, we go somewhere different. We leave James and Sofia and talk about the single person who keeps choosing the same partner in different bodies. Subscribe if you want to be there. Subscribe to be there for it. And if this episode found you at the right moment, share it with someone who might need it. I'll see you next Thursday. Take care of yourself and each other.